Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
If we could have groups K, L, M, and N, please return to the lobby. Thank you.
Good morning. Les Mesa, 23-year resident of Yorba Linda. I came to this meeting today and I've read the actual RFPs, and I went through all three of those RFPs, and they all had some interesting comments and statistics in it. Well, first off, I should also say I wanted to thank the three agencies. Anaheim, you did a great job. Brea, Jack, you did a great job. And Chief Hutchinson, you did a great job too. The presentations were excellent, but I would expect nothing less from any three agencies. We've talked about so many different issues here tonight, and I've been here since probably about the time you guys got here, probably about 5 o'clock, so it's getting late and I'm tired. But from listening to all the information I heard tonight, we talked about finances, we talked about history, and I think that's the one thing that the Brea Police Department has that the other two agencies don't. They have the 42 years of history. And I think back of some of the things that were accomplished here over the last 30-some years. I think of the opening of the Richard Nixon Presidential Library. I think of burying Pat Nixon, then Richard Nixon, and all the changes that have occurred in the last 30-some years. And I attribute that to the outstanding work of the Brea Police Department. But that's just one thing. We talk about why people do a good job, why Brea would do a better job, why Anaheim would do a better job. I think it goes back to the fact that 22 to 24% of Brea PD live in the city, and they have for years. I lived here for 23 years myself, and I'll tell you what, that contact, that daily contact between the public and the law enforcement agency gives you an edge. People you can trust, people you can go to, the way things are. And that's the one thing that I think really separates the three agencies at this point and puts Brea, I think, in the driver's seat. And when we started this whole thing, I remember hearing it was all about finances. It's not just about finances. That's an important component, but it's not about finances. There seems to be a lot of issues here, emotional, even to the point where it seems hostile. When the chief of Anaheim got up, I didn't hear anybody being hostile with him. Matter of fact, the questions were calm and deliberate. And when Sheriff Hutchins got up, I didn't hear any hostile comments with her at all, or any of the command staff. But when the chief of Brea got up, we had people all over him, unnecessarily, and the city manager. The bottom line is it is what it is, but again, this is supposed to be a forum where we're trying to decide what contract or what RFP we want to go further with. Again, it seems like the council has already made up their minds, and this is an exercise in futility, and I hope that's not the case. A couple people have mentioned that, you're our elected officials. You're supposed to be representing us, not your individual personality or goals or whatever you're doing. Again, we're the ones that voted for you or didn't vote for you based on the circumstances. But the point is, you represent us. A lot of people have said that they're in favor of Brea PD as opposed to the other agencies, and that's nothing against the other two agencies. Anaheim's a fantastic police department, and I think the Orange County Sheriff Department has got the best police academy and jail facility you'll probably see anywhere. They're outstanding, but they're not Brea PD. They're not serving the community of Yorba Linda. I raised 2 kids. I'm still raising them now. I spent a lot of time volunteering in the schools here locally. I'm a 32-year veteran of Brea PD. And the funny part is I talk to people every day about what's going on, and they ask me questions about, why are these council people doing this? What's the deal? And I try to give them as objective answer as I can. My connection with Brea was 32 years. It was a great place to work. And you know what? I taught throughout the county, through the state. I did a lot of teaching, and I got to see different agencies. I've got a lot of respect for Orange County Sheriff and a lot for Anaheim. A lot of my friends work there. but I've got a lot of respect for Brea because I know what they do and how they do it. And you know what? There's not a better place to work and to live. Again, I would ask the council to put your personal feelings aside, listen to the community, and negotiate with Brea PD. They're the people or the agency that we really want to support our city.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Next speaker, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Kevin Reese. I'm a 25-year resident of the city of Yorba Linda. I've been a police officer now coming up on 36 years, and I've had the pleasure and the honor to work with my fellow brothers and sisters from the Brea Police Department, the Orange County Sheriff's Department, and the Anaheim Police Department. In hearing all the speakers and the presentations, a couple of words come to mind: cost and benefit, change, opportunity, 21st century policing. Change, especially in law enforcement, is something that's hard for a lot of people to do. I have an iPad here. For me, this was a hard thing to do, change. I remember being in my first police car and not having basically having a teleprinter, no computer, relying on an old radio system. We've changed a lot. I've had the pleasure to work with Anaheim Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, closely when I worked my years at the San Diego Police Department as a gang detective. I didn't have the opportunity to go down to the areas in South Orange County or other areas of Anaheim when I was not working. But my present capacity now as an investigator with the District Attorney's Office, I work closely now with the Sheriff's Department, Anaheim Police Department, in some cases the Brea Police Department. I just want to let people know that on the contract policing, I've had the opportunity to work closely with the communities in South Orange County, and I have been impressed with the community liaison between the community and the Sheriff's Department, the networking with the community, the different areas of the communities, and the deputies working very closely. It's something that I had never seen before in my years at the San Diego Police Department. The presentation by Anaheim PD with their embracing of the 21st century technology. To me, the closeness, the intimacy that the Brea PD has with the citizens of Yorba Linda, you have a tough decision in front of you. And what I look at, basically, that comes down to, one of the speakers mentioned before, the bang that you get for your buck, the cost and the benefit. Each one of them brings something different to the table, but each one of them are leaders in the areas that they police. But I think the things that we have to remember is that we in law enforcement, as well as the community, need to move forward in the 21st century. Sometimes we have to be pulled in there dragging and screaming, but the future is ahead of us, and I think we need to embrace it. So please make the proper decision, like I know you will. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is April Lopez. I'm a resident of Yorba Linda, and I am a doctor. I run a sports rehab center and have for 15 years. My real job is a mother of a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old, one of which has Down syndrome, and I'm very active in the community and the school district. Wouldn't it be great if we all had a crystal ball? Then we wouldn't have to stress about change. Change is hard for all of us, as we have heard by the comments made before me. I'm nervous of change too. That's why I have thoroughly reviewed the matrix and have researched myself on the best services for my family. I plan, if it's God's plan, to grow old in this community with my family. Orange County Sheriff has the best services at the best price. And thank you, Sheriff Hutchins, if the contract goes to Orange County Sheriff, for employing the Brea officers, because there's good men and women there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you for having us. My name is Deanne Wigginton. I'm a resident of Yorba Linda. I just wanted to say, The Sheriff's Department, second to none. Please consider Sheriff Hutchins' proposal, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. That's why I like it brief and to the point. Next speaker.
Okay, please feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions. William Fitzgerald, spokesperson for Anaheim Homeowners Maintaining Our Environment. At our January the 24th Anaheim Council meeting, it took our Anaheim City Council only about 15 minutes to discuss and vote approval of a $158 million incentive for some Disneyland area developers. Now here we have the Yorba Linda Council taking day after day, hour after hour, discussing a $10 million item. So I think I speak for most Anaheim residents, and would like to invite you to maybe relocate to Anaheim and run for our city council, and maybe replace the Disney puppets we have on the council now. Our Anaheim Home is a 23-year-old organization of elderly homeowners, mostly residing in the 92802 zip code area around Disneyland. We have many active and retired law enforcement officers on our board of directors. We are concerned about the understaffing of the Anaheim Police Department and the possibility that our Anaheim Police Department will be spread out further by having to cover the additional areas of Yorba Linda without hiring the additional officers necessary. The facts, according to the OC Register, are a few years ago, when the Anaheim PD was then considered to be undermanned, we had the worst emergency response time in Orange County of over 9 minutes. Average emergency response time is considered one of the more accurate indications for public safety by a police department. The Anaheim Police Department 9-minute average emergency response time of a few years ago compares to the 3.5 minutes response time that the unincorporated areas of Anaheim received from the Orange County Sheriff's Department, according to the OC Register. In the last few years, the Anaheim City Council, in order to pay for many improvements for the Disneyland Resort area, made significant cost reductions to Anaheim parks, libraries, and our police department. The Anaheim Police Department, which was undermanned with only 405 police officers a few years ago, has been reduced by over 50 officers to about 352 officers today. Now, we question the credibility of the information that was given to you by the Anaheim presentation tonight. They mentioned about 400 officers. We feel 352 has really been exaggerated to to about 400. Also, we cannot see how their response time came from 9 minutes, and then after losing 50 police officers, they're stating that it's now 7 minutes, unless they're counting a response by a helicopter or something. I think the information is questionable. Other performance indications has been the Anaheim police killing of Anaheim residents. And the president of the Brea Police Officers Association killing a young Yorba Linda resident a few years ago. The Anaheim Police has shot dead 4 Anaheim residents last year, 2011, and has already killed another 4 Anaheim residents so far this year. All police departments have such killings, but the Orange County Sheriff's Department, for its size, has far fewer than Brea or Anaheim Police Department. The huge advantage the Sheriff Department has over the police department, other police departments, is that they have a jail system needing over 700 deputies, so when they are able to detect an individual that is performing marginally on patrol, that individual can be removed from patrol duties and can be transferred doing jail duties for the rest of their career, thus reducing the killings of unarmed residents and other problems. The Brea and Anaheim police do not have a large jail force and must keep their marginal performers on patrol duty exposed to the public. In conclusion,
So would you wrap it up very quickly, please?
okay, we believe that the Yorba Linda City Council should remember the infamous railroad track sound wall where the city of Anaheim would rather litigate than to keep the promises it makes in written contracts to other cities.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you for
sir.
your time.
Next speaker.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Sheriff Hutchins, Chief Walters, Chief Conklin, thank you for allowing me to make my presentation. I thank all three of you for your outstanding presentations. I wish I had the opportunity to review the proposals. Unfortunately, I did not, so I have to go with some notes I took and based upon what was presented. I am a 44-year law enforcement professional at the federal level, state level, and local law enforcement. I also served in the military, active duty, and reserves for 39 years. I actually had 2 full-time careers. I lived in Yorba Linda for 19 years. I love this city. It's like a slice of heaven when I come into this part of the county. The gentleman who spoke before talked about marginal employees. Well, in my experience in the law enforcement and the military, you either retrain, remediate, or you remove marginal employees. You don't put them in other positions because they tend to infect others, and you need to get rid of them. What is best for the city of Yorba Linda? I've really toyed with that, in the almost 7 hours I've been sitting here, and a lot more as I drove around the city looking at all those signs, realizing what we're facing. For about 5 years, I taught leadership for law enforcement supervisors through the state of California, and I had the opportunity to meet law enforcement professionals throughout the whole state. And I was particularly, wanted to hear from the people in the county that I lived, Orange County, talking to law enforcement supervisors. And I asked them about Brea PD. I asked them about the Sheriff's Department, and I asked about other agencies. I even asked them about the agency I worked for. And I worked for the Los Angeles Police for 37 years. And one of the comments I heard from several of the members from Orange County was that Brea PD was heavy-handed. Brea PD was unprofessional. But I can say right now, I can, remember some officers I work with Los Angeles who were definitely heavy-handed and who were unprofessional. But I think that's really a very, very, very small percentage. You'll find in any organization, whether it's real estate, law enforcement, or the medical profession, you're going to have your stars, you have the ones who don't belong. What I would encourage the council to think, to really think about the costs beyond dollars. And there's so much there. We're dealing with the officers, dealing with the knowledge that institutionalized that Brea has, knowing the city of Yorba Linda. But that's not to say that if the sheriff's got the contract or if Anaheim got the contract, the service would be any less. I've worked countless divisions in the city where I worked, and I loved the community. I don't care if it was South Los Angeles, if it was Hollywood, or any other part of the city. When I was there, I gave them my very best. And I believe that you will get no matter who takes over. But I would encourage Brea PD, honestly, to look at your culture, think about what is best for the city, and have that spirit of love for the community. It's more than just showing up and just being there. It's how you project yourself and how you deal with the people you deal with every single day. It's the same with the other two agencies here. I was going to say I support the Sheriff's Department and I support Anaheim, but I also support Brea. I think if there is a change in culture and how we deal with the community we live in, I'm content with what Brea offers in spite of all the advantages that can come from the larger agencies. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
If we could please have groups O and P, you can step through the doors into the hallway or head back through the lobby. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Henry Tabuada. I'm a resident of the city of Long Beach, but for the last 6 years, I've been employed as the general manager for the Rossmore Community Services District. Prior to that employment, I was a former city manager for the cities of Los Alamitos and Orange County and the city of Long Beach. So I do have some perspective on law enforcement and how costs and service levels are defined and paid for. Rossmore is a small bedroom, unincorporated community, much like Yorba Linda. It's only got 10,500 residents, but it's very much a mirror image at a smaller scale than your city. So why am I here? I'm here because Rossmore is going through a process of attempting to contract with the Orange County Sheriff's Department for services. Now, the sheriff already provides basic services to the community of Rossmore, and they do it very well. But our community likes a customized service level, and so we're attempting to obtain permission from the Orange County Local Agency Formation Commission to obtain the latent powers to provide police services on a contract with the sheriff. Our community has conducted a poll of their preference for law enforcement. They had a choice between the cities of Seal Beach and the cities of Los Alamitos and Orange County Sheriffs, and overwhelmingly, the community supported the Orange County Sheriffs as their preference for law enforcement services. I'm also here to observe and to commend the process that you're going through, and I've been where you've been sitting and know exactly what you're going through, and I really commend you for the way in which you've conducted this in such a transparent manner. I can only cite for you two examples that are part of our experience in the community of Rossmore. One of those was that terrible killing that occurred in our neighboring city just a few blocks down the road, where 6 people were massacred in Seal Beach. And Seal Beach, being a very small police department, called on mutual aid. 40 people from the Orange County Sheriff's Department responded to that emergency. That showed us that it's a caring agency and it fulfills its commitments to its neighbors. On a more personal level, within the community of Rossmore, when the city of Seal Beach, the city of Huntington Beach annexed Sunset Beach, another unincorporated community, we were in fear of losing our backup unit from Sunset Beach to Rossmore. And we brought those concerns to Sheriff Hutchins and a group of people here from the Orange County Sheriff's Department. My board members and I brought that concern to Sheriff Hutchins. And instead of losing the backup when Sunset Beach became a part of Huntington Beach, in fact, more resources were dedicated to Rossmore. And we now have a higher level of service than before that situation occurred. Again, I want to commend you for your process. I've learned a lot from it. Our community will benefit by what you're doing here this evening, and we wish you well with your choice. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take 2 more speakers, and after Mr. Stevenson speaks, we'll take a short break.
Well, good morning, Mr. Mayor, distinguished council, and your residents. My name is Alfred Coletta. I'm a resident of Rossmore, and you're probably wondering, why am I here? We've heard about this vetting process, and I do commend your city council for taking this on. But we as well are facing a comparable matter, and Mr. Tabwat has shared with you, we've attempted to poll the community. We feel we have a temperature for which way the community would like Rossmore to go if we do engage on a contract level of service for police services. But I also wanted to bring to the table a little bit about my background. I too am in law enforcement. I'm a 25-year career LA prosecutor. I am a trial lawyer. I'm not an administrator. And I have engaged myself in different levels of times with different agencies. Personalities vary, but you do establish relationships. But setting aside relationships and personalities, looking objectively at the varying agencies, I think I take something to the table with me, as I also serve as the president of our board and also my third four-year term. And over the course of being a resident for 13 years of Rossmore and having some experience of law enforcement, but also having the opportunity to listen quarterly to crime statistics and response times for priority one calls, I have found that over the last couple of years, while Sandra Hutchins has been our sheriff, I'm pleased to say I have seen a dramatic change in priority one response times through Rossmore, an unincorporated area of Orange County. While as well we were sharing in times a deputy with Sunset Beach. And I can also personally attest in reviewing those statistics that they've improved as well, because we are now getting additional time from the deputy that was once assigned to Sunset Beach. That person now is a rover, if I can properly characterize their title. They share responsibilities in Midway City, Rossmore, and I believe some portions of Anaheim. But setting that aside for a moment, because I wanted to put that into perspective, because I did hear in the commentary a moment ago that the sheriff's response times were not to be compared with other agencies. I differ with that opinion, having witnessed the statistical data on a quarterly basis. But lastly, on a more personal level, on my street where I reside, a personal friend and neighbor had been burglarized twice in a 24-hour period. He's a gun collector who resides alone now. Circumstances in changing his family dynamics had made him a target. Basically, he went through a divorce, family's grown up and moved out, and so his home is predominantly unoccupied, about core hours of which he goes to work. We too are a bedroom community, and this poor gentleman doesn't have a lot of time at the house like he once had, or people at the house. Well, the short story is they made him to be a good target, and he was burglarized twice in 24 hours. And there was a great fear on our street that they would return and get the balance of his gun collection. And so having a personal conviction on my heart, because he's a neighbor, but also being on the board, I felt I should do something. I picked up the phone and I spoke to our captain or chief of police for our unincorporated area, which is Lieutenant Wren. And I shared my concern. He goes, Alfred, I'm well aware of what's going on, but I'm assembling a task force right now. And we plan on dealing with this and putting a kibosh to this immediately. Because the concern was it was going to spread. And I can tell you that within 24 hours, there was an assembly of at least 10 to 12 unmarked vehicles that accompanied our nominal deputies that are in black and whites. And within a couple of days, that burglary ring was dismantled. It was linked all the way up to Oxnard and Ventura, some of the individuals that were involved. And we saw a great reduction of fear, and also we thought we saw a reduction in the number of burglaries. We do get burglaries, it is true. We're a bedroom community, but we were concerned we were going to see a spike. And I attribute to thinking out of the box, thinking forward, tapping into the resources that are available that help stem what could have been a terrible situation for our community. Having considered also the resources that are available to you that was displayed on the overhead briefing by the Sheriff's Department, I would say that you stand to gain a lot by engaging the sheriff, and I would encourage you to seriously consider them as your number one contender for the position. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson, then we'll take a brief break.
In another hour and a half, you will exceed the longest council meeting I ever attended in Yorba Linda.
Well, hopefully we won't set a record.
When I came in, I thought we were going to talk about Imperial Highway. That's the last time we had a big crowd like this. And I am going to keep my remarks brief because I know some of them have been addressed. I know we're looking at cost and other in-service levels, and everybody's happy with Brea. I'm going to bring it from another perspective. I've had the opportunity professionally to work with both the sheriff and the Brea PD. I worked with the sheriff when I was involved in setting up the new cities of Mission Viejo, Laguna Hills, and Laguna Niguel. And I spent 28 years as Public Works Director, City Engineer in Yorba Linda, working with Brea. They're both fine departments. I also lived in Villa Park for 26 years, which was served by the sheriff. And I've lived in Yorba Linda for 16. So I've seen them both. They're both fine departments. But in my opinion, Brea is far superior in the delivery of their service, particularly in their traffic enforcement. As a city engineer, I can put all the signs I want, but if it's not enforced effectively, they won't work. And Brea does an outstanding job on that. And I think it would be a big mistake for over, whether it's 69,000, 500,000, 750,000, to change police providers. The first budget that I was involved in putting together in 1972 with the city manager, Mr. Simonian, was $700,000 total. We had no reserve. When I left, it was like $30 or $40 million in reserve. That didn't happen by accident. And that reserve was built for a purpose, to draw upon it in times of need, like now, when the economy is down. You have the money to pay for Brea, if you so decide. Now, if you don't want to dip into that reserve, I'm hearing $1 a year, $2 a year, $10 a year. There are police assessment districts that you can form. I did one in the city of San Marino. It passed on an 80% vote. When we did our 2018 election for the landscape district, we had 84% approval. So if you're really concerned about money, don't want to take it out of the reserve, based upon what I heard tonight and what I'm hearing in the community, the people would vote to assess themselves $5, $10 a year to keep Brea. Mark, I think you're the swing vote. It's very clear where Councilman Anderson's coming from. He supports the sheriff. I'm not sure about Nancy. She hasn't said a lot. I think she kind of does. I think I know where the other two are. So you're on the hot seat, and I hope you make the right decision. And I hope it's not a 3-2 decision to change police providers that's going to affect 70,000 residents of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know whether I'm the swing vote, but I'm the schwing vote.
Swing vote.
So I'd like a show of hands of people that haven't been called to get in line yet. How many people, more speakers do we have? So I'm seeing about 3 or 4 hands. Okay. We'll take a short break. Everybody can wake up. And we'll be back in about 10 minutes.
I'm a retired peace officer from the city of Santa Ana, and I have, since my retirement, been running a private security academy. And I want to start out with a very short story. One morning at 9:15, I was on the 91 freeway heading toward the 55 when I received an alarm company call that told me that, or asked me if anyone was at my home, if anyone should be there. And I said no. They said, well, we have 2 responses. We have a window break and a motion interior. So I said, roll the PD. Take in mind, I was at the 91, just about to transition to the 55. I went on to Tustin Avenue, got off, went up to Orangethorpe, went eastbound on Orangethorpe all the way back to Yorba Ranch, up Yorba Ranch to my home. I got there, it was 10 to 15 minutes before the first unit arrived. So where this 5-minute response time comes in, I don't know. and it was a motor officer. So I went up, ID'd myself to him, told him I was armed, asked him if he wanted to go in. He said he had to wait for his backup. Okay, he doesn't know me, I can accept that. So I went, and then he told me, go sit in your car and stay there. Fine. 10 minutes later, I walked back over and I says, where's your partner? He didn't answer, so I went back to my car. I called the PD, asked him, is there a unit coming? Yes, they're a couple minutes away. It was a second motor officer. And having been a motor officer, I knew they weren't going to get off their bikes until they were comfortable. So they finally got there. They finally went in. They went in very quickly, and I told my alarm company people to tell the dispatcher that it was the residence of a retired peace officer and there were firearms inside. I went, before the second unit got there, I finally went on my own and I went through the backyard and there was the point of entry. I came back out, told them, I said they're probably gone. So then an hour later, CSI and the investigator arrived. So I asked the investigator, why did it take 20 minutes for a unit to get here, much less a motor, and then another 10 minutes for the follow to get here? She told me that they were at a meeting. Now, this was a couple years back when we knew, it was in the newspapers, in everything, we knew that on Thursday mornings between 0900 and 1000 hours, that there was a burglar that was hitting the area. And they're at a meeting that they cannot leave. Now, take into consideration, I live not 500 yards from the administrative police building in Arroyo Park. And it took 20 minutes for, well, 15 minutes for one unit to get there. They could have walked from there and gotten there sooner than that. Now, that's the first incident. Then I'm walking my dog at night. Doesn't matter, walk a day or night. And just about get run over several times because there's a stop sign at the corner. So I called several times. Neighbors, a number of neighbors called several times. And we get the same story. We'll send a unit out. We seldom ever see units come out. You'll see them go north and southbound on Yorba Ranch, but that's about it. And I will say I have seen a couple of units occasionally will stop on Carlos Road. And every time that I've watched them from my office window, they're either reading something, doing a report, or talking on cell phones. They're not watching the traffic. They'll stay there for 3 to 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes. So finally, I got irritated. I sent an email to the chief. The chief's reply to me was, oh, that happens all the time in our neighborhood, and, 90% of the time it's residents from the area. Well, I would like to know, Chief, what section of the California Vehicle Code exempts residents of a neighborhood from being cited for a moving violation?
Sir, make sure you address your comments to the council.
So, at any rate, I would vote for the Orange County Sheriff's Department. My first opinion would have been for Anaheim PD, but their station's across the way since the Sheriff's Department put a station in our city.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Wamba, and just like every other person in this room, I too am a resident of Yorba Linda. I have been a resident of Yorba Linda much longer than some of you. I have lived in Yorba Linda for 21 years. That being said, my opinion should be held just as strongly as anyone else in this room. I have also come to voice my opinion about this issue about having the best quality police service at the best price. One word I have heard over and over tonight is the word community. So what exactly is a community? As defined, it is a social group of any size whose members reside in a specific locality, share government, and often have a common cultural and historical heritage. What does this have to do with the Brea Police? Well, several Brea police officers reside in this specific locality. These are members of your community, the community you have all lived in for 10 plus years. We all share government, and we all have a common cultural and historical heritage with Brea Police. For nearly 42 years, they have provided us with exemplary historical service that should not be penalized. In my personal experience, I have shared numerous positive experiences with Brea Police. 18 years ago, when I attended Bryant Ranch Elementary, Brea Police appeared at Ranchero Day and allowed students to take a tour of their units so children can see what a police car is really like. That was 18 years ago, and I still remember it vividly. Growing up, Brea police officers participated in Red Ribbon Week as well as DARE events in the various schools that I attended in this community. So even though I may not be a homeowner, I still live in this community, and this decision affects more generations than you think. Ever since this issue has risen, Yorba Linda has spoken up and expressed their disapproval over this matter. I truly hope you act as true leaders of this community and let our voices be heard before you make your decision. Or has your decision already been made? Some questions I would like to leave you with are, how do you, as leaders of this community, define community? Do you define it as taking away the Brea Police Department, which is part of our common cultural and historical heritage? And where exactly is your loyalty? Because it sure isn't with this community if you're willing to sacrifice exemplary service for a couple of dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Ms. Collender.
Michelle Collender. My family and I have been living in Yorba Linda for over 20 years. Her brother is a Brea cop, by the way, like a lot of the people who spoke tonight, I think, are related to and friends of Brea Police. I had a lot of people come down tonight in support of hiring a different agency, sent them all home in the interest of saving time. The whole Justice for Julian, all Julian's friends and everything have always been interested in just getting some accountability and some questions answered, and hopefully through this whole process, we will. And for the people who don't know, Brea Police killed my little brother. His name was Julian Collender. He was 25 years old. He was unarmed. He had no prior record. He was a college student studying film, living in Yorba Linda. He was shot and killed in front of the house where we grew up. Sean Neal, the Brea detective, shot and killed him with a high-power assault rifle. The Brea police completely overreacted to a false police report that night. What further ensued after my brother was shot was more police showed up in the street. They rolled my brother over, handcuffed him as he was shot, bleeding, dying from a shot from an assault rifle in his chest. Handcuffed him and searched him. The Brea police continued to pull my parents out of the house. This was in the middle of the night at 12:30. And I just want anyone who's listening here in Yorba Linda, the moms who are at home, the wives of Yorba Linda, imagine being asleep at home and getting woken up by the sound of a gunshot that killed your son, and getting pulled out of your house by the Brea cops, walking out your front door and seeing guns pointed in your face, light shining on you, and having voices yelling at you and from all different directions, not knowing what to do. I've heard the tapes. They're not nice. These aren't community police. My mom is a small 60-something-year-old woman, and they're yelling at her, "Get your hands up, bitch! Turn around, bitch!" This is real, okay? These aren't our community police officers' 42 years of service. This is my mother, who is innocent, woken up in the middle of the night, her son dying in the street. And for all the men out there, imagine seeing your wife going through that. Imagine seeing your wife in the back of a police car and your son being taken away in an ambulance. For up to 3 hours, they didn't tell my parents anything. They wouldn't answer any questions. They wouldn't let them go back into the house to get shoes, to get their clothes, to get a wallet. They were in their night clothes. They had no idea what was going on. Finally, one of the cops went up to them and they said, "Okay, we can tell you now. Your son's at Kaiser. He's dead." Turned around and walked away. My parents got a ride to the hospital from a neighbor. Before they could leave the driveway, they were stopped again by the Brea police for questioning. Once they got to the hospital, cops wouldn't let them see my brother. My brother was dead at this point. The Brea police called him evidence. They said, you can't get near him, you can't touch him, you can't see him. He's evidence. Imagine the horror of that night, knowing that your youngest son is dead and having these police officers tell you that your son is nothing but evidence. So when you sit here and say that they've provided good service for 42 years, it makes me sick to my stomach. It's a lie, and you're furthering this lie. Some things that you may not know, some things that the chief might not know. It doesn't end there. The Brea police have come to my house. They've shined lights on my front lawn. I've asked for their names. They refuse to give them. I asked, why are they there? They refuse to let me know. That cop is here tonight. You know, one of my friends was outside and she said, remember Julian Collender? And I guess he thought he was being funny when he said, who? Who's that? I don't know who that is. You know, it's an officer-involved shooting. I would think that your cops would take it pretty seriously. I mean, that's disgusting to me. More, you know, another cop who was here tonight, he actually sent an email to my family that said, your deadbeat friend deserved it. If I was there myself, I would have pulled the trigger. I mean, these are things that you guys might not know. You probably don't know that they were yelling at my mom. You might not know that they grabbed her, pulled her hands behind her back, and slammed her on the hood of the car. You guys want to look at money, I understand that, but there's more than that. You guys, as a contract city, we have a unique and wonderful opportunity to actually hold our police accountable. We can tell the Brea police that this service is not good, and we can tell the incoming agency, if it's these guys in the green shirts, we're not going to accept anything less than the best. And hopefully any new agency that comes in will know that. They'll know we're a contract city. They can be terminated just like the Brea police. And I hope that you guys really see that for the future generations of Yorba Linda. I still have a lot of questions about that night. And just so you guys know, there still has been no internal investigation.
Thank you. If you wrap it up, please.
Sure. There's been no internal investigation. The Brea police have still not admitted that my brother was unarmed that night. These are not community police. I want to tell you, Chief Conklin, his wife was a teacher. My little brother was actually his student. You remember that?
Right.
You might want to ask her about that. There was a kid in that class, Stephen Selby. It was his best friend. He had cancer. He died when he was real young. Jules volunteered to be his student helper buddy. He brought home all his homework for him every day. It's his friend. I'm sure your wife remembers him in a very fond way. You, though, Chief, you've never come up to us. I'm here all night, and you've never said anything.
You're over time, so I thank you very much for your comments and ask for the next speaker.
Okay. One more thing. Winder, come on now. Seriously, you're going to vote on this as if you're objective at all. That's a joke. You're a Brea cop, man. A robot. You've always been a robot. You're going to be a robot. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong and vote against Brea Police tonight.
Ms. Collender,
Thank
your
you.
time is up. Thank you. Next speaker.
My time is not up, and I'll pick it up right where she left off, too. I'm Ron Short, and I live in Yorba Linda on Lakeview. And these thugs, these Brea Police Department, are a bunch of garbage, and you need to get rid of them. They're just financially raping this city, and you guys are our face, our public, that represent us, and you're not supposed to let this happen. You know, anybody that goes some 66% or whatever, you know what, I'm in the construction business. When you do a contract, bam, it's $10 million or whatever, that's it. You divide it by 12 months, give them their money, you're not tied to nothing else. Absolutely nothing. And you're making some decent decisions, and you're thinking, you know, straight about this, but you need to get rid of this Brea cops. You know what, there's another little 16-year-old girl that was going to committed suicide. Brea Police Department goes right up to the house. They didn't want to go in the backyard, so you know what they did? They left because there was a dog. Hell, I would have shot the damn dog right there on the spot, went back there and helped that girl. And I don't know what's the matter with you guys. You want to shoot. You know what? You can even put water on people sometimes, you know, and they didn't even do that. They didn't help that little girl. And then the other ones, how about when the Brea Police Department got those two teenagers involved in that drug thing and then scared them so much, and then their parents and everything, and the girl got beat up and the boy got beat up, and he died because of Brea. You got to get these garbage out of here, and every one of them. And the one thing I don't like you guys doing is saying, oh, well, what about the ones, if they get displaced? Displaced, you know how many people are displaced in this country out of a job? Thousands of damn people are out. We don't have to kiss down to the unions that these people belong to. You get the Orange County Sheriff in here. I don't like the unions. That's a separate issue. But you're not tied to the unions. You're not tied to any of that. Those are just private groups. Anybody that belongs to a union anyway, I think, is an idiot. You mean you can't budget your own money? Give it to the workers instead of giving it to some union guy that comes up here. But anyway, you got to get rid of these Brea Police Department. They have their own personal agenda. They are not here for public safety. It's obvious. They murdered that boy. They murdered him. And the same thing, they didn't help that little Kelly Azul. And then how about the one, where you got 6 people that got killed in Yorba Linda? Duh, where in the heck is the police? Where's the Brea Police Department on that? That Izzy or Isidore that killed those 6 homeless people in Yorba Linda? Do the right thing. Get rid of them. Think money, because I know this isn't going to change your mind, because they're going to have some others. They're going to say, oh, well, we had a phone call, said he was involved in something. Oh, is that the reason to kill somebody? There's a lot of other ways to handle situations. You have to murder people to do it. Hell, you could shoot them in the leg or some darn thing. Talk to them a little bit. How about using just common sense? And same thing with Anaheim. You guys, man, you got to stop murdering people.
Sir, make your comments to the council, please.
I'll make them the way I want. And you know what? So you make the right decision. Get rid of the Brea Police Department. Get somebody here that does care, that wants to handle things in a more mature way. This is 2012. This country is the biggest mass murderer in the planet. We got to go and patrol everything. We've turned all these policemen into nothing but military eyes. That's what they are, and they just go after everybody. You guys are our face. You have to tell them what to do. At least that's Sandra. At least she said. The first thing she said that came out of her mouth that I agree, and I don't even know that woman. And you know what? She said, you tell us what you want to do. Now that's what you got to do. You have to tell them exactly the kind of conduct you want. You have to tell them, hey, you know what? If Walmart can handle 2.2 million people and not have overtime, you can definitely control these people that are sitting here on their butt. And that's exactly what you need to do. You need to take proactive, and you need to tell them what to do. You need to, exactly like Sandra said, you tell us what you want us to do, and we will do it. I like that. I like a woman that stands up and says something like that. You didn't hear any of those other 2 chief of police saying that, and that chief of police from Brea, and that other guy, what's the manager for the city, hell, he's getting paid $250,000, just about like these chief of police guys are, and like Sandra's getting her $30,000 a month. You know what? And he couldn't even answer that, and you kept nailing his tail on that. And oh no, he doesn't want to back off. You say, hey, you know what? I asked you a month ago for that, and he couldn't give it to you. Duh. What's that all about? Hey, these are very clever people, and they know. The more badges and more signs and everything else they put out there, that's what gets them elected.
Your time is up. Your time is up.
That's fine. I'll see you. But anyway, vote for they don't have public safety in mind.
Sir, we got your message. Thank you. I'm glad you're really enthusiastic. Yes, ma'am. You're the next speaker.
You're lucky I don't run for office, because then I will change stuff.
Hello. My name is Krista Martin, and I'm a resident of Yorba Linda. I'm a business owner in Placentia. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 boys. I've never been involved in any unlawful crimes or occurrences and never arrested. I'm a huge supporter of law enforcement. We hold golf tournaments to raise thousands of dollars for Project 999, which is money towards fallen officers and their families. I'm here today to make you aware of a situation that took place with 2 Brea police officers on September 26th. I think you have photos now, Council. I provided photos of this situation. Yes. I was stopped by 2 police officers while coming home from work. We were stopped for having expired tags. We complied with the officer's requests when we were pulled over, which was to give our IDs. He then returned the IDs and said that I was fine. However, he did ask the driver to remove himself from the car and speak to him. At this point in time, I remained in the car. He was interviewing and talking to the driver. Next thing you know, a second officer had pulled up on the scene. They were still talking to the driver. I still remained in the car. When I asked the first officer when he had given me my driver's license back if I could pick up the phone and call my husband and let him make him aware of the situation that I was going to be late coming home from work, he said that was fine. As I am dialing my husband on the phone, the second officer approaches the car and is very rude and disrespectful. Asked me what I was doing. I told him I had a phone in my hand and I was calling my husband. He said to hang up the phone. I told him that the first officer said that this was okay. He did not like my answer. All in all, it ended up being, get the F out of the car, and he extracted me from the car, physically pulling my hair and taking me out of the car. He then threw me down on my face, as you can see in those photos right there. Also, I provided you photos that there is no markings on my hands whatsoever. Initially, when somebody is thrown down on the ground, they break their fall with their hands. In those photos, I have not one scratch, not one broken nail, nothing. He had my hands behind my back and pushed my face into the ground. Imagine coming home to 2 boys and telling them that a police officer did this to you. Also, while I'm bleeding, apparently in his report he puts that there is no sign that or evidence that I was hurt. I wanted medical attention. I was placed in the squad car and I sat there, and I sat there, and I sat there. Next, they arrested the driver, and we were transported by the squad car from the first officer to Brea Police Department. There, I was asked photos to be taken of my face. Photos were taken of my face, and I was then released into custody. They said I was not in their custody anymore. I needed to sign a ticket that read, delaying and resisting arrest. I never delayed and resisted arrest. This is a full court case now, and I cannot tell you the trauma that this has caused me and my family. I don't feel safe with Brea police out there. I know that I do reroute myself. I try to stay out of the city of Brea and reroute myself. Out of the city of Yorba Linda and reroute myself to my business in Placentia. Hence, my business in Placentia. I am now being harassed at my business in Placentia by Brea PD. My tax dollars and your tax dollars now sit in a parking lot in a business in Placentia. I want you to know that we still do support law enforcement. We have family that are in law enforcement and friends that are in law enforcement. However, with this experience with Brea, I feel that they have lost their way and I don't feel safe anymore. We talk about community. That's not community to me. I feel that I want to live in a community where I feel safe and I feel safe that my children are out there. That photo right there could have been your wife, your daughter, or your child. I really would like to sway either towards Anaheim or the sheriff. I don't believe that every police officer in the city of Brea is bad. I believe that those 2 police officers that were there that evening were bad. However, the superiors did not respond to this.
All right, thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Pablo Alvarez. I'm a 7-year resident of Yorba Linda. I live in the city with my wife and 4-month-old son. I would like the mayor and council to accept the proposal of the Orange County Sheriff's Department for police services. If public safety is the #1 priority of the city council, then the vast resources of the Orange County Sheriff's Department is the obvious choice. Without a doubt, the Sheriff's Department is the best police service for the best price. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for keeping it brief. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Fernando Tarrin. I am a Yorba resident. I've lived here for 20 years. I'd like to share with you, it's been about a year that I've retired, but my former employer, I was the administrator of a police contract. So I know what you're going through right now, and I want to thank you for at least exploring the possibility of how we can improve our contract with any law enforcement agency. So I want to commend you for doing that. I also had the opportunity to speak with your staff prior to retiring, as well as staff of Brea, on what we were doing with our contract. And I'm very pleased to see that a lot of the things that you have brought up that you were demanding of this contract were actually being addressed. And of course, the projected PERS cost was a big factor in our city. We actually ended up having a cost savings when we looked into it of over $2 million. So that was a hidden cost that we found, and was able to use those funds to reduce our contracts for future years. So I commend you for doing that. I had the pleasure of working with several different agencies. These three agencies that have submitted RFPs are excellent, every one of them. And I would encourage you to make sure those things that you've identified are in every contract. One of the things that really has concerned me in the past is attrition. I want to make sure that we have officers that are going to stay here, that get to know our community. I'm not confident that that's always possible with the Sheriff's Department because they're so large. They're good officers or good deputies. Sometimes they get promoted. They move out. We want individuals to stay in our community and know our community. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And again, I want to thank you for this process.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, good evening, or actually, I guess, good morning. My name is Dr. Christy Gardner. I am a 16-year resident of Yorba Linda. I am also a professor of criminal justice at Cal State Fullerton. Prior to that time, I have experience as a crime analyst for a local, though not Orange County Sheriff's Department, as well as being a dispatcher for a local police department. Through my professional duties, I've had the wonderful opportunity of working with all three of these agencies. I think we got three wonderful proposals. I think we couldn't go wrong with any of the agencies. And recently I've been asked, which agency do I support? And my answer is it depends. It depends on what we want. Do we want a small agency that looks like Yorba Linda, that looks very similar to what if we were running our own police department, would do? And if that's the case, that's Brea. Do we want an agency that we have some say into negotiations, some say into how things are run, have a lot more control? And that's Brea. If, however, we're looking for an agency that has all the bells and whistles that a large agency has, we have two phenomenal bids right there. We have Orange County Sheriff's and we have the Anaheim Police Department. Anaheim Police Department has been well decorated. They're world renowned for their problem-oriented policing. They've received several Herman Goldstein Awards. They've been doing geo-policing for a very long time and community policing even longer. Phenomenal, phenomenal agency. And one of the things I think that they're getting short shift here, we haven't really talked about Anaheim, and I think they have a very wonderful and competitive bid, especially when you consider that they would be willing to decrease their staffing to meet what the other two bids have been. One of the reasons their bids is higher is because they provide a tremendous amount more staffing, in my opinion. And we need to consider that. So if we want the bells and whistles of, on-the-spot crime data, then you go with Anaheim. If, however, we want an agency that looks very similar to what we could do, something small, something we can control, something we have input into, then Brea. And I also think that we don't want to go lightly away from Brea. If that's what's chosen, I think we need to be very, very reasoned. We do have a long history with the city of Brea, one that many, in fact, I would probably say the majority of residents support. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You may be the last speaker.
Amen. I've been here since 3 this afternoon, so I'm very tired. I wasn't sure about speaking because I wasn't sure what good this would do, frankly. I was here at 3 this afternoon because there was a very insulting, unfortunately, email memorandum sent by the president of the Association of Orange County Deputy Sheriffs that was very sad to receive because I have some friends, at least a spouse of one of the leaders I know sitting here, and I've known her since Glen North School, and our daughter's going to school together.
Let me interrupt you 1 second. You didn't say your name.
Sue Fenwick.
Thank you.
You know me. I was very sad to see that some of us that have legitimate, well-thought-out concerns about our police department were labeled as groupies and a small anti-sheriff faction, which is not true and it's not fair. So I was here at 3 because it called for people to come, bring your family and friends, and it was a countywide email, so there I was. We all have sad stories, and the tragedy shared is not lost on any of us, and there are tragedies in every police enforcement agency in this country, unfortunately. I have a story I could share very briefly, having been in the county island years ago before we moved into Yorba Linda proper, where I was driving home from work with the Sisters of St. Joseph of Orange fundraising. I work in ministries and charities most of my life. And picking up my little daughter from my mother's home, who was the babysitter, and lived in the remote area up Fairmont, near Fairmont, Esperanza. And I get stopped by a sheriff deputy and taken up the hill. I'd done nothing wrong. Up Fairmont, dark, nothing there. 20 years ago, officer sees the baby in the back seat of my car and says, "Oh, have a good evening," and sends me on. All the ladies at the lunch table the next day at work got it. I had the pleasure of having a fundraiser for former Lieutenant Bill Hunt in my home, and his lovely wife Debbie was there, so I am very pro police, all 3 departments here, agencies. But I was very troubled when he lost the election, and I was honored to have them in my home, as I said. And he was demoted by the former sheriff, and I was aghast at what I felt was an injustice to him for running for sheriff and losing and then being demoted. And I saw that the county Board of Supervisors that should have backed up this wrong. There was no oversight there. I went to a Board of Supervisors meeting, sat for 3 hours, could not speak, and finally had to go to work. You all know me for my volunteer service, and you all have been in my home when I supported you. And I supported you for one reason, primarily because I felt you would do the right thing. I felt you would treat the community honorably. I have wonderful support as a volunteer in this community from Chief Conklin and retired officers here, and I feel so bad for those currently working. I think there was a misery index missing, of course, from the Ralph Anderson study, but I think the misery would be great of what these officers and their families in this economy will have to go through. I hear a guarantee from the sheriff and Anaheim about picking up those officers, but I don't see a contract. I don't have that assurance, and that's not good enough. They have served us with distinction and honor. I co-founded with our former priest, our pastor at St. Martin's, and our former social justice assistant, the Interfaith Council of North Orange County. We've had 10 years of 9/11 commemorations. Chief Conklin, when he was lieutenant, gave the best speech we've ever had, and I thank you. And you were right in there, and you don't live in Yorba Linda, but you were right in there for the Veterans Memorial and Veterans Park that I haven't said much about as far as my role, but I did co-found, or actually found those projects and put the veterans at the helm and diligently worked in the background. And you were right there, not living in Yorba Linda for us, as was the Brea PD. And I appreciate you backing me up and the community on a lot of wonderful projects in the city. God bless you, and thank you all, and good presentations from all three. But Brea PD, I love you guys and women. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Henry. Any more speakers? Mr. Alders, excuse me. It's lucky I'm still awake. No more speakers, right? Okay. Second, I'll ask since we don't have our electronic voting, Mr. Winder, do you have a comment?
I don't believe so.
Mr. Lindsay, comment?
Yes, I would like to make a comment. Briefly. Thought that I'd have a treatise by this time after all the months, but it boils down to about 30 seconds, if you'll bear with me. I appreciate everyone who stayed late also. Shows how much you really care about the city. I actually did run on a platform of safety. That was one of I believe, my number one stated concern. But I will say that I don't think it's safety that's an issue in this case. I think either of these three agencies that are chosen, in my opinion, I can assure the citizens of Yorba Linda that it's not going to be an issue of safety. Where I have a problem with OC sheriffs is for me an issue of fiscal conservatism. So I must feel just the opposite of my fellow councilman, because I believe that the OC sheriffs represent an agency that is tax dollar supported. I almost feel like, as a taxpayer, we're paying twice for service that we don't get. And while Mr. Anderson thinks that's a reason to go with them, I think that's a reason not to. But all of those things considered, the one issue that sways my vote more than any other is that I have to continue to remind myself that I'm not here to vote what I think. I'm here to vote what the people elected me into this position think. And I have spent what I feel is proper time to read every email I ever received, to consider it, to test the will of the people on this issue in the community. And I believe with all my heart, as I sit here, that the vast majority of people in this community would like to see Brea retained. That's what influences my vote. I believe that Brea has its problems. There's no question about it. I don't know that there's a perfect police force out there. And I think that our best choice would be a Yorba Linda Police Department. That's not an option right now. I don't see that as being possible. I'm also going to take this opportunity to make a statement that I simply disagree that we are in a fiscal crisis. That's been mentioned from the pulpit many times over the past months. I simply don't believe Yorba Linda is in a fiscal crisis. I think we're in a period where we have to display fiscal responsibility in every decision that we make. But I will not use this contract for police services to demonstrate that we as a city are in a fiscal crisis, because I simply don't believe it. And I think there's enough people in this city that agree with me, or better stated, that I agree with, and again, the great majority of people would prefer to have Brea continue servicing the city. That being said, I will vote that way and only that way, and I will be supportive of the council's decision, as I am elected to do, because we're a body, we're not individuals. And to whoever wins the contract, I will give my full support, and be continually saddened if Brea does not win, believing that that's the best choice. So thank you for letting me make that statement, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
And I will not support that motion. In fact, I would offer a substitute motion that the council accept Brea as the contracting source.
Okay, there's a substitute motion on the floor. Is there a second?
And that would be the option with the option B with the reduced cost.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Any discussion on the substitute motion? I'll ask the clerk to call the roll and vote with yea or nay on the substitute motion.
Councilmember Anderson?
Nay.
Councilmember Reichel?
Nay.
Councilmember Winder?
Yay.
Mayor Pro Tem Lindsay?
Yay.
And Mayor Schwing?
Nay.
Motion fails with Anderson, Reichel, and Schwing voting no.
Okay,
Call for the question on the original motion, Mr. Mayor.
yes. Please roll call vote for the original motion.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Reichel?
Yay.
Councilmember Winder?
Nay.
Mayor Pro Tem Lindsay?
Nay.
And Mayor Schwing?
Yay.
On the original motion?
On the original motion.
Okay, so motion, I'm sorry, I didn't write that. Motion passes 3-2.
All right. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to our regular schedule.